Welcome guys, I'm Toby and we have got the third and final day of week number 1 in PKL, just waiting to go down. Erangel, Sanhok, followed by 2 games of Miramar is the format that's been going on for the whole week, and that's going to be the format that's going on here as well. And I hope that you will sit back and enjoy the analysis for those of you guys on Twitch as well. And as well as YouTube, honestly, if you have any questions, feel free to ask, if on Twitch in the chat, if on YouTube in the comment section below. For those of you who've been wondering about the whole program, which software I'm using, see in the description. There's a link to it down there. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out on YouTube, on Twitter, on whatever. Also, just a quick info. I've started a new video series on how to watch competitive PUBG. The first episode is already out. It goes over the difference between casual settings and competitive settings. So if you know someone who wants to get into competitive PUBG, either as a player or just for watching, feel free to share that link with them. Maybe they'll learn something new. There's going to be more videos coming, but that's not something I'm going to go too much into detail with now, because we do have games to analyze. So game 1 of the day. Let's see here. Plane is in the sky. It's a pretty decent one. I mean, every time you get a plane that goes Milta, or that goes, I guess you can say, South George over Milta, there's not really too much to it, and everyone already kind of has the splits the way that they want to do them. The only thing that's funny is that since PKL, the Korean League, has 24 teams, you rarely ever see teams go the same, like do the same things. Detonator are here because Force ain't. Force and Detonator landed here and contested each other last week. VSG on day 1, they were jumping, or day 2, I guess, they were jumping North George. But now that they know that Gen G isn't here, then they go take South George. So teams, they always have like their variation spots. They will have one spot they'll go to if everything's contested, and then they'll have oh, by the way, these guys ain't here today, so we'll go and take these spots instead. Which I kind of like. It makes it a little more fun than as we see in PEL and NPL, where just teams go to the same spots for 96 games in a row. This adds for a little change. It's always interesting. OPGG, that didn't go down to military in the on the first day, which was interesting. It wasn't a military game, but boink, this one is. So right off the bat, military is, I guess, not guaranteed, but there's a pretty decent chance that it's going to go military. I mean, it could hardship. I don't even know. It's going to go military, let's put it at that. And I think that's what everybody in-game as well expects it to go. So, obviously, bridges are going to be contested. For those of you guys who don't know about boat spawns, you can go online and find them. That's also a video, also something I've put in the recently released video. But if you look between the 2 bridges, here and here, there's only these 2 boat spawns. You don't have any more boats. You have one under the bridge over here somewhere, and that's about it. So if you can get control of one of these 2 or both of them, I'm gonna sneeze real soon, sorry. If you can get control of one of these 2 boats or both of them, you're pretty much gold. And then you can just set up on the forest side on the other side, and you can you can hold off whoever is coming down to see that there is no boats. So obviously plenty of boats out on both the sides. Plenty of boats down by Prim. You got boat spawns down on Ferry Pier, but in between the bridges, you only have these 2 available. Just a quick FYI. Then later, they're gonna cross over real early. And this is kind of interesting because Temeria, he has a Tommy gun at this point, and Aqua 5 is getting shot at by him, and I think he drives past and he goes, first of all, he didn't hit me. Second of all, was that a Tommy gun? So he turns around. He knows that Wicked is coming in to help him immediately. Boom, they get the kill. They might get 1 player knocked, but gets the res on up again. And immediately, right off the bat, OPGG loses a player. So going out to contest with a Tommy gun early, clearly not the not the best play to make. We got Griffin Black. They're still looting. They're waiting for Rage and Ajonje, who's looting further up north. MSQ gonna take 2 boats, cross on early. Afrika Freaks Fatal, they're gonna cross early as well, take their boats down, and what they do is actually kind of interesting too. We'll just leave them to sail on over. Quattro, they cross. Michael and Quattro kind of run into each other up here, but they both get to go over without any real confrontations. Danawa, they go to check for boats. Again, no boats available. They've been taken long time ago. And they opt to go in the water. I actually kind of like what they do. Look at what they do here. And I like that because you have catch and you have... I mean, these two guys just send it straight in the water, right? They get all the way, and this is a small thing, but it can be a difference maker in some cases. They get all the way here before they even start swimming. They're on their vehicle, whee, flying into the water, and they get to here before they start swimming. Some people, they'll be running down the cliffs, and then they'll start swimming, right? If you're already out here, I mean, when you're in the water, you're just a target. You can't shoot back, you can't heal, you can't do anything. You're just a whale that is going to die if he starts getting shot at. So the fact that you get to go this distance out of this much, the fact that you get to clear this in a matter of a couple of seconds, or 1 second pretty much, and only have to swim this far, it's actually a pretty smart play. And you see them do the exact same thing. John Gag and Yacha, they're the ones that are sitting, like they're staying up here to make sure that nobody from over here is sitting and shooting at their teammates in the water, right? So once they realize, okay, it's clear, we haven't seen any movement on the other side, we should be okay to leave, what they do is they take the bike, go back, gain some speed, do a 180, and then they just send it as well. And they get all the way out into the water before anything happens. It's a small thing. It's a small thing. But if it's a matter of a couple of seconds where had it just been 1 second later, I would have been on the beach and I could have shot back. In this case, well, it didn't work for them. Also, another thing we get to see real soon is another interesting one. Look at this. So the circle goes south, and it's only circle 2. Obviously, now it's guaranteed to go melee. But normally, I think, at least in the Western scene, the common thought is... Because you always just say, oh, but why don't Danawatch stay up here and keep off anyone else? Because they also don't want to be kept from anyone taking whatever areas around here. So I think the common thought in the Western PUBG scene is that once you get to the other side, you just get the hell into the island. And now I know that the military base itself is obviously not somewhere you want to sit too early on in the game, but you don't stay by the water in military unless if you absolutely have to, because the circle is forcing you to. So what Afrika Freaks do here is actually kind of interesting. They jump out of the boats, they go down, maybe they didn't get the loot they wanted. They keep in mind Afrika Freaks were rotating really early on, so they might have needed some more loot, and they just time it perfectly, because look at this. Shadow and NN, they're about to leave, but then NN goes, wait, I think I hear a boat out somewhere, and this is the entirety of SK Telecom. They spot them, they shoot at them, 4 guys dead, team eliminated. So really early on, we have 2 teams wiped from, one full team, I mean, wiped from the game because of that. And that opens up so much more room for people on military, because military is already a hard place to play around. But they go from 1 trap, setting up a new trap on EVGA. They didn't get that, like, they don't get any kills right off the bat, unfortunately for them, but they do set up the trap. Unfortunately, not able to execute it the way they wanted it to. Enters Ace tried to do the exact same thing further up north on towards LVG, but didn't work out for them either. And now everyone's rotating, and everybody knows, okay, so even if it doesn't go military, if it goes out east, we have to crash. I mean, there's nothing else we can do. It can still shift north, you can play around the hillsides, and you can sit down here, but for the most part, teams, they want the safety, so they go in. Detonator, take the planes. VSG try to crash, but they realize it's not going to work, so they go back. They were getting contested at, like, by the time they tried to get in. MSQ crashing over towards the hangars. OPGG is already sitting there, keep that in mind. Enters Ace, they lose 2 players as they try to make the push on over. They just, I mean, it was kind of funny because Ace was the team that was containing for the longest time. And as we can see here, now we got the guys in Griffin Black pushing up. And now they're actually, like, they end up being the ones being contained. So they lose 2 players, Alpha and Joy. They have to just take a bike, send it as fast as they can, because, well, first of all, blue is coming. Second of all, there's not going to be a whole lot available if you wait for too long. They try to go in and play a center position. They do get in, and also the circle shifts west over towards them. So in that sense, they're lucky. But they have the entirety of Griffin Red and MVP players coming in towards them as well. So not the best situation for them. They do end up going down. Joy gets killed at some point soon. And all of a sudden, now everyone's inside the circle. Everyone is in. But all of a sudden as well, military base becomes like a city ending. there's only room for so many players on the southern side, and everyone's locked down to their small positions up here. VSG is the only team that is still up in the north. I mean, we do have 2 of the Griffin Black players up in the north as well. Ojong J pushes down, gets a crazy triple nade onto on towards the guys from EVGA down here. Really great play by him. But overall, everyone's pretty much already made it inside of military base itself. Lockdown position, completely lockdown position, somewhat lockdown. And I guess Michael, they could technically make a move from here over, and they will do that later. Spoiler alert. But for now, they're sitting pretty comfortable. They could push up and take control of the station as well. But for now, there's no reason for them really to go anywhere. Starlord gets knocked. VSG comes down to help him out. Makes perfect sense. Palace makes the push up. His teammates get eliminated as they all try to cross, but he gets to stay alive, at least for a little while. I mean, there's still 10 teams alive, so maybe he's going to be able to grind himself some placement points off of this. We'll see. Palace is, well, he's staying alive for as long as he can in here. Circle shifts east again, and now look at the, I mean, look at the amount of players in this area. There's absolutely no, obviously, there's nobody coming in from the southeast. The south is limited to 1 team, but they're being heavily contained by these 2 teams. And everyone knows, I mean, if you're a freak of freaks in this situation and you've been sitting in this spot for a while, you just look, I mean, you could get pushed by MSQ, but since there are 4 guys alive and N is holding this angle, there's such a big open area here that you have to cross in order to get over, that first of all, MSQ would probably die if they tried. Second of all, they would know. I mean, I would not assume them to be able to cross without MSQ knowing. So MSQ is not too worried about MSQ right now. Africa Freaks is not too worried by Media Square right now. Everyone's fighting their way in on the north, and it's just building to building type fight, just like city ending all over the place. Circle once again hard shifts out east, and at this point it's one of those situations where if you're MSQ and you're a freak of freaks, you don't agree to not fight each other, but right now the focus has to be on what is coming from this direction. I mean, if MSQ is smart, they try to third party these guys as soon as they have a chance to, because a freak of freaks, they need to worry. There's only so many places you can play from in this circle. You got a part of the containers in still. This is just what even is it? I think it's just like a one tower thing that you cannot get into. And then you have the small fence lines, and you have part of the factory building. That's pretty much all you can play from in this circle. So I can just draw up what is not really playable. I guess you can still play from the backside there, but I'm just gonna draw it away anyway. So with the exception of this, and this, everything else, I'm not even gonna spend time drawing, but you can see what I mean. Like this in here is playable, this in here is playable, and this over here is playable. And then you have the area up here. But everything that is inside this is not playable. And look at how big of a chunk of the circle that is. Look how much of a circle that is just not good. So that makes for an interesting one. I'll answer your question in just a second, by the way. So everyone knows to hold up. Michael gets to push around the top side. MSQ also have to figure if this circle, I mean, at this point, they have to realize if this circle shifts away from us, which odds are that it will, because there's so much of the circle that could go over here as compared to here. What do? They already have Dewa pushing all up. Now the circle does leave over, and they go, instead of trying to cross here, which we said before, this is going to be open, it's going to be impossible. And they've also realized that the majority of the firepower from a Freak of Freaks is down here and not up here. They decide to go over the backside. Michael Gaming still up here. Danoa somehow, and that's one of the reasons why they're sitting in first place overall on the day. Their ability to get players knocked but not lose them, like they're always there to get the rests up. Very, very, very impressive. Circle closes in. Michael and MSQ obviously forced to take a fight because they have to leave the building in order to get inside. Danoa pushes up. Great timing on the third party. MSQ does get to push around the side. Style is there to help out, and all of a sudden, this becomes a kind of a 4v2 fight. Yacha and I believe it's a Catch. Yeah, they're both forced to jump inside, so now they're sitting down in the silo, and they can't really do a whole lot. Shadow and NN is there to apply pressure, and Style can just like a quick peek over the top all the time. That end up getting the win. So impressive game. Impressive first game from them on a military game that, and that's the funny thing, right? Because Afrika Freaks, they were fighting from the very start. They want look. Let's take a look at them. They go out east to loot. As soon as they see the circle pop, they barely even spend any time looting before they start rotating. They get the boat down, and they play from the south the whole time. They know that because of the rotations, because they've made sure that no one's coming down here, they take out one team, they fight through another. Because of the way that they play this game and the way they're able to scout, Style has already been looking up. He knows that MSQ crashed up here. He didn't see anyone shoot from this area. That means this area is open. Boom. And then, yes, circles go in their favor. We can compare this to a city ending, right? Whenever you're in a city ending and you get the circles, odds are you'll win it. We can compare it to Sanhok. If you get the circles, you'll win. 9 out of 10 times, if you get the circles in cities or in military for that sake, you'll win the games. And they do it, but not by just camping and doing nothing, because they get a lot of kills this game, and also they played extremely smart. So great first game for Freaks and all the teams that make it, and also like overall interesting way to have a set of Erangel like military game turnout. That was game 1. Now we'll boot up game 2 real quick. I'm just gonna pause for a second, and then gonna update this, and then I'm gonna answer the question that one of you guys had. Hello Toby, as well as waiting for that when the games are done. Thought you were doing. I am. PEL analysis will be after these analysis. So if you stick around for, I don't know, another 30 minutes, then it will be PEL analysis. Stick around. It's gonna be good. You will enjoy it. Anyway, Sanhok. Not a lot to say. One interesting thing though that does happen here is the first circle goes to west. Also another interesting thing that happens here, and I believe that ends up playing a pretty important role in all of this, is the fact that we get not 1, not 2, but 3 teams landing in boot camp. 3 teams go boot camp. 2 of them die, expectedly so. Griffin Red ends up surviving with all 4 players live. They're the team that gets the third party, so therefore they get the win. It's not always a guarantee that that's the case, but they do. And 2 teams, I mean, having already lost 8 players makes so much more room. Because we were discussing, when I was casting the game, the viewers were saying that this was actually the first Sanhok game that they had kind of been enjoying watching. And I think a big part of it is the fact that we've already, I mean, right off the bat, we're 2 minutes, you can see it's up here, 2 minutes and 40 seconds into the game, we've already lost 8 players. That makes so, even though you have the river here and everything in the regard, that makes so much more room for teams to rotate around, that you don't, like 8 players, that's a lot of space to take up in a game of PUBG, especially on Sanhok. So the fact that we got all those out of the way early on makes more room for the opponents, or for the rest of the players, and just makes for a lot more interesting. MVP, they're gonna be looting up north. Keep in mind what they're doing up there. Just keep MVP in mind while we let the game go on. Everyone's rotating on foot. SKT moving in. Element, they're moving in as well. Griffin Red, they have cleared boot camp, but now they're sitting and they're just waiting. But this is, honestly, I think this is probably one of the best compounds in all of Sanhok, because you have an access point from here, and you have access point from here. This is the only place that you have direct access to all 3 islands. Quite honestly, one of the best places to cross, or to control. So if you're looting, let's say you're trash looting on the south side of boot camp, you can have 1 guy loot here, 1 loot here, and 2 loot here, or 1 here, 2 here, and I don't even know, 1 here maybe, or I don't know. But this has to be, I mean, I was very surprised not to see anyone actually land and loot here on the first day of PKL. I didn't get to see where everyone landed in PEL yesterday, so maybe somebody landed here, I don't know. But I think this will be a compound that you want to take control of. Question: What is your opinion on the Sanhok games for the leagues? Did it make things more interesting, or did it make stuff more complicated and convoluted? I don't think. I don't really like Sanhok. Oh, that's where they went. Okay, I mean, again, I didn't see where they landed in PL yesterday, so it makes sense. I like the fact that somebody takes control of this. Good for TSM. I am not a big fan of Sanhok yet. It took a while on Miramar before teams figured out how to play that map too. I don't think that they will figure that out on Sanhok, but I don't know. It's season 1. They're experimenting. I can respect that. Not saying that I'm a big fan of Sanhok, but rather test it now when we're still in the experimentation phase than bring it in when everything is kind of already settled and cut out. Circle goes further west. We are now guaranteeing to a certain extent that it's going to go down to this island. Because keep in mind that on Sanhok, we have the whole water exclusion land ratio at one phase earlier. So that happens in phase 3, not phase 4. Keep that in mind. Everyone looting out in the blue, on the edge of the blue. And MVP, they're chilling up north. They spot out Vino. LVG forced to make their transition back. And nobody really wants to fight. I mean, people take circle center. VSG try to fight off, and this was a ugly fight in the way that I think it was Juanita. He sees these guys. He sees all of EVGA push up really early and doesn't shoot, and that was really good play. And I don't know if it's because the info didn't come across right, but right now they're playing this fight so split, and they engage when a lot of the players aren't really there to help out, and it ends up getting one of the players killed. Could have been avoided, probably, but they end up getting a 3-for-1, like 4-for-1 anyway. So it's worth, but they could have kept 4 guys alive, I think, in that fight had they engaged a little differently. Again, of course, when we have so much water in play, it's pretty obvious where the next circle's going to go. MVP, they're in the water. They're gonna sail across. Boom, that's where the ship is gonna go. There's pretty much nowhere else it could go. And all of a sudden, if you look at the east side of the circle as compared to the west, it's a cluster. And it becomes only worse. We have 5 teams up and around Painan. Afrika Freaks Fatal, they found the quiet side of the circle. That's how they normally like to play these mid-game situations on Sanhok. At least that's how I've seen them. They don't really engage in anything early. Detonator, they got a 3-1 split. Again, Koreans love the 3-1 splits on the eastern side. And then you have Danawa sitting tight up north. They've lost 1 player already, but they're just keeping ruins. They're just controlling ruins and not wanting to do anything. Again, make a line here. We got 3 teams north and we got 10 teams south. Ruins is taking up so much space. You can't really sit as a team in any of these spots. That's the thing, right? We are in phase 4 right now, and this whole area of the map, this is a pretty big chunk of the circle. Like this whole area is controlled by 1 team. That makes things pretty interesting. So they're all chilling there, trying to hold off LVG, which works out because they end up dying to blue, I believe. In the meantime, everyone else is fighting, and of course now this part of the circle is out. They never had to fight. VSG is chilling, Detonator's chilling, and everyone else just, I mean, cluster, uncluster, and it's. I don't know. The fights are interesting to watch, and at this point, I think both of these 2 teams actually have racked up quite a few kills already. But Griffin Black, they have 2 options here. Either you crash into the compound, or you try to move around. But because Junsu and G-Walk start shooting over towards them, they realize, good, we have to crash, we have to take the fight to Detonator. Not a whole lot more we can do. VSG, they're just playing safe on the north side. No reason for them to over-aggress anywhere. Michael trying to get inside the circle. That's not going to happen. Circle goes back up north. Danawa have control now. Detonator, they need to figure, do we want to push in and take the circle, or do we want to take this fight with the guys on the other side of the road? And obviously, there's only really one thing they can do from here. They need to take the fight with them. And who comes up to third party? Da-da-da-da. They want to for the longest of time. As soon as Raining is killed, they realize, good, there's no more to fear here. They can all, because this is one of those where it's, we'll draw it in a different color. It's a big uphill push this way. And everybody can see this compound. Like these guys, the guys on the edge before, everyone can see this compound. And they're just sitting and waiting for it to be out of the circle. So in hindsight, Detonator should probably have not taken this fight, but pushed up and then taking the fight later, but then they would probably just get swamped from either sides. So Circle shifts once again. It's sent this up, I guess, as fair as can be for everyone. Quattro has to take the fight on the edge. And again, I mean, keep in mind that Dano were 3 guys from very early on in the game, right? They're playing it really smart on the sides. Now Circle send us up in the middle. Hulk goes down. Minsun gets down to blue. That's really unfortunate. I think he mistimed something. And G-Walk ends up going down too. So Danoa wins the game. Danoa just got themselves a 2nd place in the previous game, and now they get a win. So really, really, really good start to the day for Danoa. In this game, I think they had 10 or 11 kills too. So really, really solid finish off from them, considering the fact that they lost their first player extremely early on, way up top. Anonix goes down early, and he's normally, I mean, honestly, Anonix is the guy that you normally consider one of the heavy hitters for the team. So the fact that they end up without him still getting a 10 plus kill win, very impressive for Danoa. So that was game 2. Sanhok, again, it's kind of limited how much we can really do analysis on there, but I try. A lot of it is very fight-based, and this tool is not exactly the easiest to go into depth with fights. And I know that you guys have been asking me to do more, what do you say, more clips and stuff from the games, but I don't really have, I mean, I have access to the clips, but I don't think I'm allowed to show them on stream, so I can't really do that. Only if something very special happens. In PL, there was a lot of changes regarding names. So yeah, all the settings are the same across all regions. Yep. And I'm out of coffee. Unfortunate. First game of Miramar. Let's just get it going right away. Game number 3 of the day. Decent playing. Teams can go pretty much where they want, but it's a southern circle. GP already down here, and this was a chaos game. This was one of those as well. I mean, both the games today on Miramar were pretty chaotic because teams decide, I don't know why, but teams in general as passive as some of these teams in the Korean League play, there are a lot of really early rotations. MSQ, of course, they just wanted to get vehicles. They end up losing a player to a UMP. I mean, not a lot more you could do. Starlord gets knocked, but he gets back up on his feet. Everyone's rotating in, and of course, you want to be, I would say in this circle, you want to be south of this line. There's no reason to be anywhere up here in this circle. You can always go back up here. There's so many compounds available. You can always push down. It's like there's a invisible. I mean, it's not really invisible because there's a road there, but it's all uphill for a little while here. I'm not good at drawing lines or arrows. It's all uphill on this side, which means that as soon as you're up there, you can focus on what's on the other side. But until you get to that point, until you get through this area, then that should be your main focus. A lot of the teams will go around. Of course, Los Leones takes up a lot of space, and you can see how many teams are actually playing this from the east side. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams over here, as opposed to, I mean, I know a lot of the teams on the west side have already rotated down, but I think there were only 2 or 3 teams coming from this side initially. So a lot of the teams will be trying to make that swoop around Los Leones or go in above, but for the most part, it's all about going underneath, which is also, if we fast forward a bit, what you can see here, all the teams are coming in underneath, especially with this next shift, and that's where it gets extremely tricky, because look at this shift. When the circle pops, and I know it's a western shift, but if we draw a line kind of straight through, we'll draw it another color, kind of straight through the middle here. 1, 2. I'm gonna say 9 players. I'm gonna give them 9 players on the left side, on the western side of this circle center, which means that in this case we have 50 players right now contesting, because if you're in the center, I mean, that's what people tend to forget sometimes. If you're GB right now, and it's like, oh, it's a western hard shift, everyone goes west, right? Why would you go over here if you're GB? If you're VSG, why would you cross over here? If you're a detonator, why would you cross over here? They would just take, if they wanted to do anything, they would go further towards the center. So leaving the west side open doesn't mean that that will be taken by the other guys. What you could see maybe is a team that goes crazy YOLO over the Los Hijos Island rotation or all the way underneath and try and push in from here. But because there's already so many teams in and around the middle, it just makes it extremely difficult. Look at this. I mean, so many teams are now with the guys in the blue as well trying to make the moves in from the east side, and it just creates a cluster. I mean, the bottleneck that you have on this side is already there because it's all uphill. I mean, high points, high points, high points. I'm just drawing up some of the mountain tops, and this area up here is it's just horrible to play. We saw it in the game too. There is very, very little to no cover. I have a hair somewhere. I mean, I have hair everywhere, but there's very little to no cover available for anyone, pretty much, and it doesn't exactly make things easy. Oh, that's what's making sound. It's a door. I'm hearing like squeaky sounds, and I'm like, where the fuck are all these sounds coming from? So, so not easy. Not only are all the players coming from the east, but it's also the hardest place to play from. You know, not exactly an easy situation to be in. Had it been more spread out, then sure. Or had there been a way to rotate from the south, then yes. Had it been a circle that was up here instead, it would have been a whole other story because teams could have just rotated around. But because there's only really one, we'll say two, but no one's going to do this rotation. There's only really one way you can push around to the other side. Just makes it extremely hard. As I say that, Guru goes across. Thank you, Guru, for disproving my point. No wonder you guys died early. I actually don't think they do. But in any case, they sent the vehicle in the water. Circle sent us up. And again, now it's obviously more aligned. Great 4-man split from VSG. And had it been late, had the circle been anywhere else, then odds are, again, 3-1 splits. Then again, you could argue that you could have kept this split longer. But because we are where we are, there's very, very few. I mean, the south, even though there's teams everywhere here, you're in the high mountains, which means that as soon as you go above, I think it's somewhere around where Siege is, like height-wise, as soon as you go above this line, like all of this up here, there's no trees here. There's no cover. You have your vehicle, you might have a rock somewhere, but there's no cover. It's all just rolls and hills. So there's no tree, there's no cactus, there's no hay bale stack that you can hide behind. It's just you, and if you're on the top trying to get info and you get spotted out, odds are that you're gonna get shot at, most likely die, because you have, like, once you get knocked, you have nothing to cover down, like to crouch down behind. You're just gonna get knocked and get completely screwed. Also a guy south, the crossroad, late comes into sea. MVP. I didn't even see where MVP is. You mean NYSQ? Oh. yeah. Yeah, MSQ, they played smart. I mean, they already lost players, and they can't really just go full YOLO on things, so they just play the backside. Like, they just push in. If they see opponents ahead of them, and the circle goes further north, they'll just backtrack. And that's exactly what... Well, we'll get to that point. We'll get to that. But yeah, already now from early on in the game, they're really screwed. Ace and OPGG ends up fighting way too early for anyone's liking. Rawang is all by himself from real early on in the game. He ends up getting spotted out at some point soon. You can see already now, he's just, okay, they drive this way, I'll go this way. But since there is still 49 players alive, and this next push he has to make is across an open area, he's most likely not going to survive. New circle, Pups, again. Now we have Chuma in. It's all good fun. The thing is, for the most part, all these players, they've been on foot. I mean, other than, of course, GB, who pretty much started their game here. Most players have left their vehicles behind way down south because you cannot really drive safely up in the hillsides. So they're going to be playing this one on foot. So you don't really have the situation where, oh, it's a hard shift. Let's just go to the other side of the circle. Let's just go to the other side of the circle. Can't do that this late. If you're, I mean, if you're with any kind of smart thinking. OPGG try to go around. They cannot get any further than, I believe, around here or the shack or something like that. Yep, down there they go. And they end up getting taken out because of it too. They're simply split off. I mean, there's not a whole lot they can do from the position that they're in. Rarang trying to crush around. He spots out Korn. He ends up getting spotted out himself and goes down. And in the meantime, up north, more and more teams come into Chuma. It makes perfect sense. And now with the way that, like, just before the circle pops, we have 3 very different circle finishes. We have the mountains that I talked about before, that grant you 0 cover, or very little at least. We have a city ending, which is already 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams contesting, which means that for a next team to get in, keep in mind people don't have their vehicles anymore. It's going to be extremely difficult to find any spot to lay low. And then we have the compound that VSG has. That alone is difficult enough to push without a car. And the open field down here. So hilltop, open field, city. It's like the 3 endings you don't want, but it's gonna go to one of them no matter what. And what do? Boom, we get a bit of all of them. And we can draw it even up. We can draw it up even more so now. Mountains, open field area with a compound in the middle, and city. That's a yikes ending no matter what ends up happening. But obviously there's so much more room to play on the south because there's nothing to play. You know what I mean? There is plenty of room, as in square meter per player available, but there's nothing you can play from there. You're gonna get screwed if you start running down this hill, because VSG will look up towards you and other teams will be looking to take fights there as well. And also, the circles have continuously pushed further and further north throughout the game. Like after the southern shift to start off the game with, the circles have been like gradually bouncing back up north. So there's going to be a much higher concentration of players up here who has just gotten to stay, while everyone has been fighting to get up this way. So obviously, since they've been running side by side, pushing elbows and all that stuff, trying to get up, more players have died in the south than in the top, because every time the circle have gone on Chumacero again, they've just been like, well, I guess we're not moving anywhere. So still a lot of players alive up here, but the bottom has kind of been thinned out in a way. Circle is going to start closing on in. OP tries to make a push, obviously not going to happen. BSG, their only focus right now is to contain down here. Starlord pushes up the hill, and I really like this play because they realize very early, if this circle shifts away from the compound, we need to take control. Like, as good, like they have a, right now they have a buffer. Actually, it's further up. It's like this. This is as far as VSG can see. They can see down here, but obviously they just killed OPGG, so they know that there's no one down there. This is as far as they can see. And that's good in the sense that if the circle comes to them, people have to push through this. Like, this is going to be a VSG minefield. There's mines everywhere here. As in, whoever goes out into this area is going to get screwed by the compound. But it works the other way if the circle goes away from them. Because then whoever gets to position themselves up here, this area that was the you guys cannot get to us field for VSG becomes the, oh my god, now we are the ones that have to cross that field. Like, nobody wants to be the ones to have to go through here, which is why Starlord, obviously realizing this really early on, goes out to take a position on the other side, saying if we can control both this and this, then there's actually a chance that we can make a play, because then we're not really relying on not wanting to cross this. So Starlord goes out, not to go aggressive and kill everything, just to go out and make sure that they have some space to work on. Circle could still go back down. Starlord stays up here to try and see if he can get some info. Danawa, they're now all pushing over, trying to get into a better position for the late game. Detonator in the same time pushing down the hill. Starlord gets knocked, and this is where, I mean, this is where they now start realizing we need to make a play here. Gets back up on his feet. Circle is now excluding. I mean, had Starlord and Juanita not been up here, Catch could have easily gone over and played this position. I mean, not easily, because there's limited cover, but he could have gone over here and played from that angle. And then, I mean, imagine if there had been a Danawa player. We'll draw that in blue. Had there been a Danawa player over here, all of a sudden, like, and they realize, oh, by the way, there's a full team of VSG down here, and they've been sitting up here. There's no way in hell VSG would have gotten to leave. They would just have hard focused them. That would have been their death. But because Starlord and Juanita is already there, they can try and make a play off of it. So now that they have them up there, they still have the buffer zone. Danche and Hulk making sure that there's no one behind. They're trying to push up the road. take the fight towards the guys in DD. In the meantime, Dumbo and Korn, they've just been chilling on the backside. They have not been forced to take any over aggressive fights, and they've been chilling. Starlord goes down, Hulk and Juanita are still alive. Again, they have this buffer. As long as they have control of what's just above, they can play this side. The fight escalates inside the city. Of course, it was going to end at some point. In the meantime, all of Detonator are prone in the dip. And again, make the buffer zone. You don't need to go out and get all the kills. You don't need to aggress out and take all the fights. Let the other guys do the work for you. At this point, this late in the game, placement points are kind of more important than the kill points, especially considering like you don't have to over aggress and then get killed because you want to get a flush onto one player. It's simply not going to be worth it this late in the game. Not when there's such a big chance for you to win the game. So VSG, look at the way they're holding. One in the middle, one on each side, containing the sides, making sure that no one can peek over. Juanita does get knocked, and then all of a sudden, that's what I was saying when I was casting the game too. Once the first bullet's fired here, once one player in all of this gets knocked, because it's 2 guys against 3 guys, and they're within such a small area that once one player get knocked, Korn and Dumbo, either they aggress here to shoot at the guy who is now obviously reloading or healing or whatever, or they go down here to aggress on the guys who are arguing whether they should go over and get the res up. So one gets knocked, fight escalates immediately, Juanita stays on the backside, and VSG wins the game. Really great play. They never give up their buffer area. They never allow for anyone to push down. Even though he's knocked, Juanita stays there as a knocked player and makes sure that no one's able to get the kill. Extremely good game by VSG. Unfortunately, kind of the only really good game they had today, but it goes to show that they are a high caliber team. And with them being able to have games like that, and then not be able to do that other games, just goes to show the depth of the Korean league. So impressive game by VSG, very impressive game by VSG. Game number 4 and the final game of Korea League for today. This one as well, rather chaotic, I would say. I think that's a good estimate of. I think that's a good estimate of this one. Rather chaotic. It's Eastern Plain. Obviously, if you want to go El Pozo or Montenegro or something like that, it's not exactly going to be easy. Also, first circle pops and it's east. Now, something happens down south. Watch this. You have a Chuma team, you have a Monte team, and you have a El Pozo team. And obviously, with this plane path, I mean, they can't really get there just by flying. I mean, they could, but they would be staying in the air the whole time. And yes, chap, you did. That was the first one. You can go back and look at the VOD or the YouTube video that I'm going to be uploading. So everyone's going for vehicles in Los Leones because you don't really have any that dedicated Los Leones looting teams. So we have VSG in here. You have Ensis Ace. They're down there. And then you have MVP all going for vehicles in the exact same spot, which ends up causing chaos. VSG, I mean, 3 of them try to get away. Starlord gets caught by himself. All of a sudden, we got EVGA in the mix here trying to fight too. And in the meantime, the circle has popped north, right? So VSG, they all want to go over and loot their spot. Makes perfect sense. And now it quiets down just for a little while. A little piece of calm before the chaos commences again. Everyone starts rotating up. Obviously, you're going to follow the water. If you're Griffin, they managed to make their way through all this despite Detonator setting up a perfect ambush. They actually end up turning around and taking the fight to Wicked. But then he, like, they drive around the area to find him, but they don't manage to find him, and then Nana ends up getting taken down. So arguably a little bit of a misplay from them. And of course, this road here, we've talked about it so many times. Starts here, ends, I don't even know, here, let's say. This road is like a river. It's big. You can do exclamation mark program in the, I guess I should have put that up there, sorry, in the chat, RB. This road here, because the what do you say, the plateaus or like the high grounds on both sides are so high up. If you're caught down there, or if you have to cross, like you just want to be on the correct side of it from really, really early on. And we'll see it come into play later with the circles shifting the way they end up doing. So everyone's making their way up. Everyone wants to be somewhat center, but of course nobody wants to be in El Azhar. El Azhar is one of those valley towns where this is really low. High point, high point, high point, high point. I mean, if you get caught in El Azhar, there's no way you ever get out from there. Pretty simple. Circle, boom. Right on top of El Azhar. And not only, I mean, keep in mind that this also, everything out here is inaccessible terrain. It's like water, you know? Not water, but it's like a big wall that you cannot get up. So right now, the circle center is unoccupied. I guess it's not taken by anyone. You have Lash, they're playing here, and like all of Element, they're sitting around the side, but nobody wants to go into the circle center. And if we cut the circle up in half-ish, there's one team on the northeastern side, and 14 teams having to somehow figure out the rotations in from the south. And this just becomes a rotation chaos. Literally a rotation chaos. Nobody wants to go inside El Azhar. We don't have to go into detail with any of the actual engagements that go on, but it's just so many people end up getting killed in these rotations. You can see south, huge choke point. On the northeastern side, big choke points as well. And finally, people, of course, are forced to play El Azhar. Is the position okay? Yeah, I think this is a good split by them. They have plenty of info. They have all the control in the world. And VSG end up getting eliminated there. They were getting from the second they left Chumacera, they were just getting shot at all the time. So many teams are losing players on rotations this early. And how to make it even worse? We already said with this circle popping that there was only one team. Like there's one team here and 15 teams here, right? Now with the circle shifting, we can just draw that same line again. Look at the half of the circle. And one of the main things here is, again, I'll remind you, this area up here, I'll just draw it up like this. This whole rock formation is inaccessible, which means that normally, if you see northern hard shifts, had it been anywhere, like had it been here, this circle popped, teams would just go doink, doink, play from the north side. But now there's only this one available. You cannot make this rotation because you cannot cross through here. You cannot get up in this area. Like anything that is on the right side of this, you cannot get to. So this whole rotation is impossible unless if you want to cross through here, which is a very small area, and leave one guy in this compound on this hill, and odds are you'll get your vehicle blown up. So it only leaves western rotations. Also, the city is a no-no, right? So pretty much what you have to rotate through is this. And from like all of this is you will have to rotate through it sometimes, but you don't want to. And then up here again, it becomes somewhat doable. And you can see the way that people are going around. Everyone's going around that side, trying to get all from the sides, because nobody wants to be stuck inside the city. Teams will go into the city as, oh my god, there's nothing else we can do. But everyone, as you can see, are hogging the walls to try and get around. Griffin Red and Ensis Ace forced into fights. Not what they wanted to have happen. New circle pops. Boom. We hard shift away from the city. It's such an unforgiving game, this one. This road as well. Big uphills on this side and big uphills on this side. Such an unforgiving game. If you look at where the circle is, like the new one, everyone is coming in from the west. Obviously, with this being a hard shift, but you cannot, again, rotate around because of the way that this circle is set up. OP, they hug the corner, they go as far as they can, but they don't have a whole lot to play from here, so they need to make the push further in and up the hill. And it only gets worse from here. It's just one big, I think by the time we had 45 players alive, so when we lost 19 players, it was all uncontested. Like, we didn't see anyone actually fighting each other properly. It was all just rotation kills, on rotation kills, on rotation kills, on rotation kills. Chaos, chaos, and chaos on end. A new circle pops. And where do we go? Doink. Right on the compound. Detonator, sitting well in it. There's no reason for them to do anything. I mean, you just chill. At this point, you have the very center of the circle. You know for a fact, it's just like with the VSG game last game. There's no reason at all for them to go and contest anything. They're sitting on the dot. There's pretty much no way they cannot be inside the next circle. And they have a really good spot to play from. Everyone else, I mean, they have such a big buffer zone right now. This whole area is their buffer. They can see quite a bit of it. They have to go a bit up the hill in order to see up the hill. But you can see every time they see something, they shoot. They have to shoot at everything to make sure that nobody's going to come crashing, right? They're forcing everyone to, like, by keeping them at bay, they're not compressing, but they're, what is the word? They're forcing all the teams to fight on top of each other. They might not get any kill points from it, but at least they get placement points out of it. One team decides to go on the other side. That's Griffin Black. They find Mickey. He does get one knock, tries to run off, but he ends up going down. And then you have a 4-man stack. And also, I mean, also if we go back a bit and look at how SK Telecom played the game, because they had a ton of kills. They just cleaned up on the edges. From the very start, they always rotated to edges. Rotate to the edge, clean up. Rotate to the edge, clean up. Rotate to the edge, clean up. That's how they played the entire game. Just follow the circle on the edge. They say, you know, we will go, as long as we rotate early enough, we will go sit where people are coming to us. They do that, and they make it work. Great plays by SK Telecom. And they end up getting second place overall that game, I think, despite going down a little earlier. So in this situation, when I was casting this, like, look at this circle shift, right? Obviously, the two detonator players, they're gonna cross the road early, so they get safe here. If you're Element Mystic, what do? I said they have 3 chances here. They have 3 different things they can do, because they've been busy fighting over on this side, right? So either A, crash into the compound. Or you go down here and you hope that you can get some kills, and then you cross on foot with smokes or something like that. That's one opportunity. Because there are still 4 guys alive. They could just take a fight to them, right? B, you go around the south with your vehicles. Or C, you try and push north. I mean, you have to get over here somehow. So these are, we'll just draw this one in a different color. These are the 3 options you have if you're Element, right? Can you get a knock in the compound? Maybe you can crash it. But since they know and have seen all these fights happening on the south, I mean, EVGA tried to push up. They got a lot of those kills as well from back here. And they know that SK Telecom has lost players. They go for the southern push. The only thing they don't realize is that Wick, throughout the whole thing, can see the vehicles, and he just starts lasering. Him and Hikari just starts lasering, and they end up killing all of them as they try to drive. Had they been smarter, I think the smart play in this in this situation, but I get that they stay, like, these guys stay to cover, so that if Jeff stands down here to shoot them when they get across, then they can knock him. But had they been driving at the same time with both the vehicles, so 2 guys and 2 guys had been going at the same time, they would not have been able to. I don't think they would have been focusing one car, and even if they had, they would still have got the other car through, you know? So because they shoot, like, they stay, this car gets blown up, then they get to reload, and now they come, then they both get blown up too. So unfortunate rotation from Element Mystic, where had they done things a little quicker, I think it could have ended differently. And now this situation for Wicked. This is again an area of the map where it's like this kind of. This is a big uphill for Detonator. They need to go up this hill. Like up this hill here. And they know that if the next circle don't go to us, it's exactly like with the VSG game last game. If we get contained, like if whoever is up here, if this fight stops and there's only one team left, they just have to sit like this and they will be able to contain us. Whether it's 3 guys on one team or whether it's 2 duos. So we need to leave now, at least have 1 guy up that can secure this area should we get shifted away from. So what ends up happening is that Hikari pushes up, Wicked is there with him. They know for a fact there's only few players in the south because they saw SKT lose players early on. So they push up, but as soon as the circle shifts back towards them, they go down again. But they realize, wait, there's a shack here. We can sit on this, because they know this is their final circle, right? So the game is going to end somewhere around there. If we have control of this now, like if we can sit on this shack, there's no way anyone is going to be able to push in and take full control of anything here. Because we have this guy sitting here. We have the guy sitting below him to help out if they decide to push. And this is our game. Like, we cannot lose this one. And correctly so. I mean, Jeff pushing over the top, spots the 2 Griffin Black players, gets down 1. He goes down in return, and they end up taking down the John Jay. Great game for Detonator, who, again, exactly the same situation with them and with the VSG. And honestly, with the Freak of Freaks Fatal in game 1 on Military, they got to a spot early. They got a whole lot of circles going towards them. But when it came to the late game, they knew, because getting to late game is one thing, but actually being good at, like, you can see teams that, especially with this point system, there's a lot of teams that are really good at finding late game, but they never win games. Because when it comes to how to win late game, I don't know, they just can't get it going. And this is a situation, I think, where Detonator played it extremely well. So that was the final game for today. I hope you enjoyed watching if you're watching on YouTube. And yeah, thanks a lot for tuning in.